There is a fifth dimension, beyond that which is known to man. It is a dimension as vast as space and as timeless as infinity. It is the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition, and it lies between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge. This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call
the Kaalia Zone.
Welcome back to Deep Discussions, Kaalia of the Vast, Season 2. This is where Clay and myself, that's the MTG3 Drinks, are discussing cards released since the last season we did back in 2020.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. It's been 3 weeks since we last got to, speak to you about, what was that, enchantments and the artifacts. Prior to that, it was the creatures, and then prior to that, in episode 1, which we apologize for so profusely, was lands. So in this installment of Deep Discussions Kaalia the Vast, we're not even going to focus on Kaalia the Vast. This is actually somewhat of a, I don't want to say viewer, but as the saying goes, this is like a viewer request, right? There's been many requests. Many Magic, the Gathering players ask the question, right? Or so the saying goes. What about that Zenith Seeker, right? So what we did is we reached out to our resident Zenith Seeker expert. Fortunately, we didn't have to throw a rock that far. And we found our friend and yours, the mysterious, the magical, the stupendous 3 Drinks. What's up, buddy?
Hey, what it do?
What it do? So yeah, I don't know, it's been an interesting journey. For those who do know or don't know, this is actually the second time we've engaged in this very season 2. The audio issues, I hope, fingers crossed, are fixed. We sound wonderfully buttery in your, subtle tones in your ears, bringing you that Kaalia goodness, all of that. And yeah, today's episode is Zenith Seeker. So I have a list. They haven't seen it yet. I'm going to hit the button. It's going to appear right. Boom. There it is. So for those of you who already know, this is going to be a Moxfield list. I'll put the link to this list in the description of the video. So that way you have easy access to the goodness within. We're going to take the opportunity to do deck tech style. 3 Drinks is going to talk about everything Kaalia Zenith Seeker. You have the floor, my man.
All right, so first thing you're going to see, you get a 3/3 for 3 with flying and vigilance. So already you have a very undercosted card with 2 evergreen keyword abilities. But wait, there's more, as Billy Mays would say. May he rest in power. When Kaalia Zenith Seeker enters the battlefield, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You can reveal an angel, a demon, and or dragon card from among them and put those cards in your hand. Put the rest on the bottom in a random order. So, unlike Kaalia of the Vast, that relies on sneak attacking in a single large threat and riding it to victory, Zenith Seeker doesn't let you do that. He's not a sneak attack in the command zone. He makes you pay full price for your angels, demons, and dragons. Not only that, but you still need a critical mass, because since you're paying full retail value, you can't just stock a deck full of a bunch of 7s and 8 drops, because that just isn't going to work. You have to apply the philosophies of ramp and card advantage in order to get to that point where you have the resources to start playing these threats. The good thing is, angels, demons, and dragons are made of fairly resilient, hardy stock. As you're deploying a threat, you can rest assured that you probably have the best threat on the board. Naturally. The other thing that what Kaalia does is her ETB is essentially a lead the stampede effect from Mirrodin Besiege, which was, reveal a number of cards, put any that are creatures in your hand, and the rest on the bottom. So that means that once you can continually hit her ability, you've always got another threat, which makes you very resilient to removal, because they're going to remove something, and you've always got something else to follow it up. Or you blank their removal because you have a blink or a reanimate spell or, insert effect here. That, by its very definition, makes her a mid-range commander. There is a combo interaction in the deck, but it's generally speaking a mid-range grindy value deck. I like to call this Kaalia, but friendly, because she's the Kaalia that doesn't make your friends want to punch you in the face.
Not initially, anyway. Not till later.
Exactly. So, before we get to the deck list, there's a bit of philosophy in how do you make sure you hit her ability? Because you're going to look at the top 6, and you're going to take anywhere from 0 to 3 cards of a certain type and put those in your hand. And by the way, that doesn't have to be a creature card. That can be, if you had instant dragon, or I guess tribal instant dragon, that would qualify. Not that there's a lot of those effects, but that corner case does come up in this deck. So the first thing that comes up, what I had to do, or what you should do, is find yourself a calculator that computes the hypergeometric probability. So the numbers you're going to use. So you have a 100-card deck, -1 for your commander, 99. Now, -7, because you're going to start off with 7 in hand, 92. Now, the earliest that you can play Kaalia is when you have 3 mana. So, typically speaking, you've seen 3 cards, 3 draw steps, by the first time that you could play Kaalia and get that first trigger. If you jam it on T3 and you've done nothing else except play Kaalia. That means the most number of cards in your deck when you get that first trigger is going to be 89 cards. Now, assuming if you played 28 creatures, which is a much higher number than the typical Kaalia of the Vast would play. Of that 28, you'd have a 90% chance of hitting at least one creature, which is cool, but that's not impactful enough to justify spending 3 mana on your commander. Ideally, you want to at least put 2 cards back in your hand so you get a draw 2 off it. Now, if you really push the borders from that 28 and you go all the way up to 38 creatures, you can guarantee that you've got about a 97% chance of hitting at least one creature, which is good, but that's a really hard metric to hit. You're playing a 38 creature deck, and it's not like it's white winnie. You're playing 3s, 4s, 5s, and 6 drops. That's a really hard metric to maintain. But if you played in standard season around Khans of Tarkir with Collected Company, the math you're doing is really similar to the math you needed to hit on a Coco, a Resolve Coco. See, looking.
So yeah, this is basically. I was just thinking that this is basically Collected Company, but Mardu and Singleton.
Yes, exactly. And rather than playing green and needing to resolve a sorcery, you can instead play your commander, then play Restoration Angel that, oh, look, your commander can find for you to blink Kaalia and get the next trigger off of it. It's a 3-drop, so you can kill it and then cast Unearth to bring it back and get that trigger. You can play Panharmonicon, and now every Kaalia trigger is going to actually let you look 12 cards deep. I mean, 6 cards and then another 6 cards, potentially drawing 6 cards, if you hit all 3 off both those triggers. Or you're going to dig 7 cards deep if you have the aforementioned from a few videos ago, Path of Ancestry in there. Because you cast Kaalia with the Path of Ancestry. So now you scry 1, and then you dig 6 more cards off her ability. Or, maybe you only dig 6 because one of the cards you saw with the scry was what you wanted to see anyway. But yeah, so you're looking at, uh, the wrong post. Anyway, so you're looking at your optimum number tends to be about 36. Like I said, 38's pushing a little bit too hard. If you drop down to 30 to 32, you risk too many chances of getting 0 or 1 hits. So you go 36. Now that sounds like a lot of creatures, and it is. So how do you have room for other interactions, other removal spells, other draw spells? So you make your creatures that you're trying to draw with her perform other things. You want things that wind up hitting, like removing permanents, things that draw cards or tutor or sack outlet, things that disrupt your opponent's abilities, like Linvala, Keeper of Silence, is a great example of that. Linvala doesn't. I don't think Linvala needs any introduction. I mean, she's a one-sided curse totem. So everyone relying on their Birds of Paradise suddenly can't rely on their Birds of Paradise. So let's look at some of the more like non-standard picks. Things. The first of which, there is a Changeling Berserker and a Changeling Hero. These look like fairly underwhelming cards. You got a 4-mana 5/3 haste, and you got a 5-mana 4/4 lifelink. But there's 2 perks here that you're looking for. One is Changeling, which means it's every creature type at all points of the game.
I'm looking for the Berserker.
If you flip that on a Kaalia trigger, it's going to be able to fit in with any other thing that you wind up picking. If you see Demon, Dragon, Changeling, you've got all 3 cards. If you see Angel, Changeling, you've still got to draw 2 off of it. And that's good on itself. But that second ability, that champion or creature, is what you're looking for. Because most of the time, there's going to be corner cases where you want to hit something else. But most of the time, you're going to champion Kaalia. So that way, when the Changeling dies, it's going to return Kaalia back to the board. And then, oh, look, now you get another trigger, another chance to draw a couple of threats and keep yourself going. You see what we're doing here? This is inevitability. It's letting us build, just keep going throughout the game. As late as it goes, we constantly have gas to be able to throw down and keep people worn out. And that's what the whole thing is doing. And you've got Answers to Anything. You've got Karmic Guide, which is an angel spirit to bring things back. You've got Shadowborn Demon that destroys any non-demon creature. You've got Obsidian Charmod to come down and wasteland people for you that oftentimes you'll cast for 2 mana.
There it is.
What?
Obsidian Charma.
Oh, yes.
I expanded the window a little bit to show the preview because they couldn't see the cards behind the text and stuff behind. So as you're talking about these special things, like just covering back. Okay, so you have mirror entity. You have
yep, mirror entities at the top. Yep.
Changeling berserker, and then you
Changeling
have
Berserker,
changeling hero.
Yep.
So
And
those are the and Karen Wanderer.
Karen Wanderer, yep, that's another changeling. No, he doesn't have the champion effect, but no, occasionally, I've given him protection from demons and dragons before, if you catch my drift. That sometimes is relevant. That basically happens because there's a Baneslayer angel on the board giving it its protections.
So there's also Krav the Redeemed.
Yes, there is Krav the Redeemed. Or
unredeemed. Yep.
Yeah. So what Krav is going to do is you're going to draw him off Kaalia's ability and ideally something else. And Krav himself is going to go and find another threat for him. So you have more of that redundancy. Because he's going to come down, give you that free shuffle, look for Regna, and then, do what he does. But his purpose is actually twofold here, because he gives you an easy cost sack outlet for 1 mana, sack any number of creatures to draw a bunch of cards, gain a bunch of life, and then put a bunch of counters on him. Like, he's really good at that. I don't care as much about Regna. Like, it does work off of Krov's, so it gives you extra bodies. But yeah, Krav is the real powerhouse there.
It's just basically a free card.
Exactly. Like, Regna doesn't have to be great. It's just a free card.
So I do see two. I see three. I see 3 cards that one we did talk about, one that I mentioned, and then another we didn't talk about at all. Actually, two that we mentioned, one that I said hold tight, we'll talk about it later. So there's 4 cards from this last year that we talked about in the other episodes, the creature episodes for Kaalia the Vast. That's Piroue, that's Scion of Draco, and there's Timeless Dragon, and then one we didn't talk about at all was Angel of the Ruins.
Yes.
So, go ahead.
So, like, I probably shouldn't play Piroue. It's 8 mana. I don't have a cheat mechanism. He's our Elder Dragon. He's got that retro frame going on with him. He's got some badass art to him. From an efficiency standpoint, he probably doesn't have a role in there. Well, honestly, he's an 8 mana 7/7 with an upkeep cost. But he does, what he does do is offer me a card in the creature slot that gives me a wrath effect. And, when you play this many creatures, you try to make your creature slots do the most that they can for you. That's why we have Sunblast Angel. That's why we have Malfagor, who actually serves a lot of purposes because he's a demon and a dragon, so he can hit kind of like the changeling thing, because he can be either type for Kaalia. And oh no, you discard your hand and make everyone else sacrifice a bunch of creatures. But you're fine with that because your commander keeps rebuilding your cards to keep cards in hand. And he leaves you a 6/6 on the board. He gets the job done. I put him in there on a whim, and he actually, I literally linked him every turn with Sword of Hearth and Home, and turns out that making everyone sacrifice their boards every turn kind of worked well. Who knew?
So Condemnation is Blink, Restoration Angel, Blink.
Yeah.
So talk finality.
Yeah. So Angel of Finality. I wanted a means to get some graveyard hate in there. I couldn't just use Scavenger Grounds because, one, my mana base is pretty good where it's at. I don't want to tweak it to go deserts. But that gives me an Angel that my commander finds that comes down, nukes whatever the most threatening graveyard is. And I mean, it's a 4-mana 3/4, which is going to go under the radar because who cares about a 4-mana 3/4, and easily castable. Like it ticks all the boxes that you want it to tick. The only non-synergy it has is Restoration Angel because that pesky non-angel clause. You have enough other ways to blink it and bring it back that you're fine. It's okay. Other things, Angel of the Ruins. I love cycling that thing early, because plane cycling, so it's going to find a planes card. Doesn't have to be basic planes.
It's on theme because you're playing Eternal Dragon and Timeless Dragon, so you've got the 3 plane cycling creatures.
Exactly. And they find duels, so they find Sabai Triumph, they find Godless Shrine or Sacred Foundry, Plateau, etc. And like Angel especially is great because when you hit that late game, it feels really good to hardcast it. I mean, you're going to exile up to 2, enters the battlefield, exile up to 2 artifacts and or enchantments. So you can potentially get a 4/1 off a 5/7 flyer. It's really powerful. Scion of Draco, we talked about that. So it's 12 mana that never costs 12 because it has domain. It's going to cost 6 here for a 4/4 flyer. That it functions as a multi-point anthem because it gives your white creatures vigilance, which Kaalia has.
An evergreen anthem versus a crusade-esque type anthem.
Yeah, because angels, demons, and dragons are big enough that you don't really care about +1/+1, but you care about giving them a bunch of abilities. And when it gives you black creatures lifelink to prevent people from making a meaningful crackback at you, and then your red creatures first strike so they can't block your guys, because you have angels, demons, and dragons. If they all have first strike, then people aren't going to block you well at all. Like, they can't stand up to that. I mean, on its own, it's going to be a 6-mana 4/4 flyer that doesn't get any of his abilities, and that's kind of a letdown. But so maybe he doesn't deserve to be in the deck at the end, but he's pretty good. He'll cost you like $2. You really can't go wrong.
Right. So at this point, did you want to cover your combo included?
Yeah. So the one combo that I have in the deck involves Irelia the War Leader that people have been begging me to put into the other Kaalia that I won't because it doesn't really work with the other Kaalia.
Not on attack, yeah.
Yeah, not on attack. And scroll down more. And then the other card is in our artifacts with Sword of Hearth and Home. So what this does is Aurelia is on the board. You're going to attack. That's going to untap all creatures you control, including whatever creature is holding Sword of Hearth and Home. When you connect with a player, the sword trigger goes off. You target Aurelia. That's going to blink Aurelia. She comes back. Oh, look, she's a new object as you start this combat phase. So you'll attack, and the new Aurelia untaps, and now you have another combat step.
And
noting.
Yeah, the only major rule you need to follow is, and you were about to say it.
Yes, the only major rule you need to follow, there's 2. One is don't put the sword on Aurelia herself, because the blink is going to wind up unattacking it, so you need another body. And 2, unlike some similar cards, you do not have an extra main phase after this combat step. So when you're going to go combat to combat to combat, you don't get the chance to re-equip a sword. That's why you can't do the combo with just Aurelia herself. A lot of people will miss that because it's easy to miss, but no. You need to pay it. That is a very pertinent detail. Not getting the extra main phase is huge. But yeah, that's otherwise a very efficient way to take unlimited combat steps. And the sword itself, unlike in the original Kaalia, the sword does what we want to do. It helps us ramp with lands. It helps us blink, which we care about because our commander likes to blink. And it just all around does exactly what we want it to do. The only other equipments I have here is Umezawa's Jit, which I don't believe needs any explanation. Jit is Jit.
Legit.
Like if you haven't played with a Jit, watch it once. You'll see. And the other is Death Render. That is a really crappy rate for a sword, 4-drop to equip, and no protection. Just gives the creature +2/+2. But ideally, you only use the equip ability once. Because once that creature dies, you're going to put another creature from your hand on the board, and you're going to attach Death Render to it. And luckily, we have a commander that's going to keep our hand stocked of threat. So even if they wrap the board, Death Render is going to go off, put a threat on the board for you anyway, and with +2/+2 to boot, and you're just going to keep on going as though nothing happened. So yeah, and those are the only 3 equipments that I'm actually playing in the deck.
Okay. Any standout? Okay, so nameless inversion, obviously a standout because it does have that shapeshifter or changeling ability, so you can hit it off of Kaalia.
Yes, because like instants and sorceries that have creature types is a weird mechanic, and it's going to confuse the hell out of especially newer players that didn't play during Lorwyn block. But yeah, like I said earlier, changeling means this card is every creature type at all times. That includes nameless inversion, and at one point I also had crib swap for it was 3 mana
exile
changeling instant, and exiles something and leaves behind a 1/1 body. I actually cut that once Fateful Absence came out because, as I said in a previous video, Fateful Absence is a really, really efficient removal. Like
unconditional, giving them a poopy draw spell.
Yeah,
or
and
draw artifact or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean the fact that it's modal, like can hit creatures or planeswalkers, means I've never seen this card be dead ever. Unless your opponents just aren't doing anything, and if they're not doing anything, then you just win anyway, right? Like, other thing,
yeah, you've got some blink, you've got some tutors, you've got some removal, free counter spell, pretty standard. Teleportation circle is a nice one.
Yep, just another way to be able to blink that apparently scares the crap out of people. When you stick that, oh, you're going to draw 3 cards every turn. It's like, yeah, okay, but for some reason people don't want you to have that out on the board.
Still got to cast them, buddy.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like I still have to cast the cards.
That's what the Smothering Tithe is for.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's a little bit of foretell play going on here. We talked about it on an earlier episode, I think.
Cosmic Intervention.
That and Doomscar. I love Doomscar. It's like a 5 mana vanilla wipe, except that it never costs 5. You just pay 2 early on, and it just sits there. They can't interact with it.
Doomscar.
Yeah, it's a sorcery, and it's it just sits there in the command zone, just waiting to be foretold. And you just pay 3 mana and wipe the board.
Yeah, that's right. We also talked in a previous version of this podcast. We also talked about Dam.
We did. Dam, same thing. It's either a 2 mana hard kill spell, 2 mana hard kill spell with no restriction, and you can overload it to just be a wipe spell instead. It's a really efficient rate. Note that its mana value is still 2, even if you overload it, so it still gets spell snared. Or if you're like me and you play Modern, people get cute and they try to overload Dam when you have Eidolon of the Great Revel out, and they still take the damage for it. Oh, I paid the 4. Like, no, its mana value is still 2. No, don't make me judge call your ass. I'm what? Cosmic Intervention, that's another blink effect. Fantastic response to a wipe. You're just gonna again like Scar, you foretell it for 2, and it just sits there until you have to use it. 2 mana. Well, I'm gonna Damnation. Okay, well I'm gonna crack Cosmic Intervention and get all my shit back, make a bunch of triggers, all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, uh, fairly self-explanatory. Super good card. Always catches people by surprise. I don't think cards like Rise of the Dark Realms need any introduction. Does exactly what it says on the tin.
Mm-hmm.
9 mana, win the game. Especially if you have Terror of the Peaks coming off of it, because like Escape Shift in Modern, it's Terror of the Peaks sees all these creatures at once, so every one of them well triggered. Mana base is pretty basic, pretty straightforward here. I don't make any tricks. I got lands that all my type tools, all my fetches, Ash Barrens to cycle for me. Strip Mine, Wasteland, Ancient Tomb, and Phyrexian Tower. The only
And let's face it, like Wasteland. All right, so Wasteland and Strip Mine were now Drinks has been playing these forever, and originally in the 1v1 circles they were used as mana denial effects, so that way you could stay, because Kaalia 1v1 is very much a tempo deck, so you don't mind sacrificing your own lands to make sure that you're taking lands out from somebody else as well. So that's what these were there for. They remain because every year WotC prints more and more like higher impact lands, Field of the Dead, what have you. So if you're sitting at a higher power table and somebody has a Gaia's Cradle, boom, that's an instant target, Or people are... Golos isn't so much of a problem anymore because of bannings, but like imagine, having a Strip Mine or Wasteland against a Golos deck, who's trying to build value off of putting lands into play and generating mana, right? So...
in the 11 years I've played Kaalia, and the few years prior to that, when I first found Commander, back in the days when my very first deck was Dromar the Banisher, and every turn it was just attack, name whatever color you are, bounce, bounce, bounce every freaking turn and annoy the crap out of people. I have never found games where Strip Mine and Wasteland were dead cards. Ever.
So I'd say you got a pretty sweet list here, and I think people are gonna have a nice time interacting with you on this.
I think they will too. Like the only non-standard part of the lands, like we touched on Path of Ancestry and why it's good specifically here, because it's gonna let you dig 7. And Phyrexian Tower, a sack outlet in the mana base is great, and it does kind of ramp you and help you play some of these creatures. That's
recoup. Yep.
Yeah, there's so many times where I'll sack Kaalia for Phyrexian Tower, make my black, and use that to play a 5-drop on T4. That's a legitimate play. But yeah, mana base is pretty straightforward here, honestly.
Yeah, because you're playing all the fetches, you're favoring all of the type lands as much as you can. So Canyon Slough, Snowfield Sinkhole, the Triome,
Captain, my fetch lands let me fix any of my color, absolutely. Even as far down as the best example of how bad a fetch land has to be and still be playable in Fable Passage.
And you're running your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're running 5 basics, so that'll always be live.
Oh yeah, because I have Fable Passage and Prismatic Abyss says it only affects basics.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
And Ashbarians.
Yeah, Ashbarians fair. But I mean, like, even Ashbarians is not as important because its fail
Colorless.
case is still just being a land, an
Yeah.
untapped land. And an untapped land that feeds into Arcum's Astrolabe.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think if you're not monocolored, every commander deck should play Arcum's Astrolabe.
It's a cantrip that fixes colors.
And it's only 1 mana, it replaces itself, fixes colors, gives you a source that generates no mana for the corner cases where that's relevant.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason not to play Astrolabe, like 0.
Sweet.
In fact, if you have a reason not to play Astrolabe, please at me in our Kaalia server. At
Awesome.
me, and I will tell you why you're wrong, and we will debate this like esteemed gentlemen discussing what burn spell is better than other burn spells in modern burn.
Awesome. Okay. So yeah, we don't want to give all the details. You've given most of the details, but we don't want to give like every. We want to leave some mystery there. We want people to come and interact with you. 3 Drinks will be available to answer any and all questions. Either he has was that MTG Nexus like series like a thread that he manages. Do you manage Zenith Seeker on that forum?
Yes, I do manage it on the forum. More often than not, I'm starting to switch over to use Mockfield for my interactions more. Because in this day and age, this is 2022.
Yeah.
How much forum traffic is there really?
Yeah, nobody forums anymore. Discord is the new forum, and there's some corner Reddit stuff out there, but yeah. So okay, I'll put a link to this deck list that you're viewing right now in the description of this video. He'll also be available in the Kaalia of the Vast. It's the Vast Discord, where we do talk mainly about Kaalia the Vast, but are willing to talk about any and all Kaalia because we love her to death. So he'll be there, and basically I'll put in the description of this video all the places that you can interact with 3 Drinks regarding this commander. So yeah, man, it looks spicy. It looks like it tears it up. It's versatile. It does all the things that it needs to do, and you've put the work and the effort to make it happen. So I can't wait to see this commander get the due justice that it deserves after you put this list together for everybody to sample, right?
Yeah, like the only thing it's not really doing is it's not a CDH deck because, like as I've said before, I don't have a CDH metagame, so I don't bother building to that. So I try to build roughly to what I expect, what I anticipate in my LGS to stay up with that, to stay competitive with that, and so that's mostly high power.
This looks like a hell of a good time with friends, drinking beer, hanging out, jamming some Kaalia that nobody's gonna get too upset about, and yeah, like this is barbecue. This is Saturday barbecue Kaalia right here.
There you go, and that's a perfectly acceptable game point to be at. Just
absolutely.
Yeah, it's nice to have a deck that doesn't make people want to give you free punches in the face. Hell, it's nice to have a deck where I'm not just playing another way to use Contamination Lock.
Right. So, all right. So that is it. Let's see, for season 2, holy cow. Season 1 was just kind of like this weird anomaly that was like, hey, let's do this damn thing. And then over the last, it's March 2020 now. Over the last 6 months, there's been a lot of hey, when are you guys going to revisit this thing? And it's like, you know what? We ought to do this thing. So here we are, 5 episodes into season 2. First one is Lands. Sorry for the audio quality. We feel so horribly about that. We decided to re-record and bring you some better freshness to that. Episode 2 is Creatures. Episode 3 is... What is episode 3? Episode 3 is Enchantments and Artifacts.
Yep.
And then episode 4 is Kaalia, Zenith Seeker, brought to you by your friendly neighborhood 3 Drinks. So, all right, my man, any parting words to the fans?
Well, all I want to say, from Kaalia's personal liaison, may your games be decisive, and may you always have an angel, demon, or dragon in your hand.
Amen. Righteous. Until the next time, is that a spoiler for season 3? We don't know yet. Until the next time, my friends, come see us at the vast Discord server and ask us anything you like, especially about Dragonstorm. All right. We'll catch you later, my friends.